All three military chiefs resign in Brazil following Bolsonaro's changes in his cabinet, putting the country on unprecedented crisis.
Here's a summary of the article.
Jair Bolsonaro's crisis-stricken administration has been rocked by the sudden sacking of Brazil's defense minister and the subsequent resignation of the heads of all three branches of the armed forces. Bolsonaro had reportedly been demanding the removal of Jean Pujol, who, to the president's apparent consternation, has publicly rejected the politicization of Brazil's military and pushed for tougher restrictions against COVID, which has killed more than 314,000 Brazilians. Cantanhede said, "General Fernando's exit shows us that there is a significant wing of the armed forces, in the Army, Navy and Air Force, who do not accept authoritarianism, coups and the violation of the Constitution. Bolsonaro wants everyone to be his vassal and to do whatever he commands, and many people within are now saying, 'No, sir, actually we won't.' This is extremely important because it shows there is resistance in the armed forces to any kind of coup-mongering project. And Bolsonaro's authoritarian project," Cantanhede claimed. The last time he could remember an army chief being removed in such unusual circumstances was in 1977 when the hardline General Silvio Frota was sacked after trying to unseat Brazil's then-dictator Ernesto Geisel, one of the military rulers who governed the South American country between 1964 and 1985. Trauman said, "Changing the army commander in a country like Brazil, and during an administration like Bolsonaro's, isn't business as usual." Bolsonaro, a career politician who swept to power in October on a fake news-fueled wave of anti-establishment rage, is a notorious admirer of Latin American autocrats and has publicly praised the former Chilean dictator Augusto Pinochet as well as the generals who ruled Brazil when he was a paratrooper in the late 1970s. Trauman said he saw no immediate chance of a break with democracy or coup attempt because of this week's turbulence, but feared Bolsonaro, who is facing growing political pressure over his catastrophic COVID response, was seeking to install more pliable military leaders in case his bid to secure a second presidential term in 2022 failed. Cantanhede said Bolsonaro's high-risk gambit to shore up military support, which risks angering key figures within the armed forces, spoke to an increasingly desperate president who was hemorrhaging support, including among Brazil's economic elite, thanks to his horrific reaction to COVID.
This post received a score of 9,800, with an upvote ratio of 98%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
If he's even losing ground with the military, how is he still in power? Forgive my ignorance, but what exactly is going on in Brazil's social and political climate?
To summarize, Bolsonaro has support from the President of the House and, in order to an impeach trial to begin, the House President has to accept it, so he just blocks the path for a trial. In U.S. terms, it would be like to try to start an impeach trial against Trump if Paul Ryan was still the majority leader and controlled the House, and he was the one responsible for accepting the claims in the first place before bringing it up to the House floor. The three generals resigned because Bolsonaro is both trying to expand his support in the House, giving positions in his cabinet away for people who could flip against him, and also trying to expand his power in the military. His supporters are annoying a holes that will do anything for him, including threatening people, which make it harder to oppose him.
Thanks. I seem to have forgotten one of Trump's very few friends outside the US was this jackass. They have more in common than I thought they would. Sorry to hear.
El Salvador's Nayib Bukele too.
Guess in the end Bolsonaro really ended up being an authoritarian. Shocking. Latest news.
You mean the guy who said he supported the military dictatorship and said that torturing people was a good thing as a fascist? Very shocking.
I guess no one could see that coming. Very surprising.
Who could have ever predicted this?
Our username checks out.
Tomorrow is the anniversary of the military coup of '64, which put in the military dictatorship that Bolsonaro loves so much.
Ugh, my grandfather worked for the government that was overthrown in '64. He'd be so ashamed to know his children and grandchildren support Bolsonaro.
Brazil's been in crisis mode since that dipshit got elected.
Brazilian politics are very tense since 2002 with the election of a left party to the presidency. Brazilian media is controlled by 5 families, one of which is evangelical money-crazy R. Since then, Brazilian media went haywire. They wanted the left out no matter what. It was also made legal weeks after her impeachment passed. Here we are, finding every day how things can get even worse than yesterday.
The internet has been incredible for years. It's also generated a way to heavily connect and manipulate large swaths of people. Sometimes I question if the internet has been worth it.
Pandora's box.
It's pretty clear Bolsonaro wants his own January 6 in case he loses the 2022 elections, but with the support of the Brazilian military. After all, who could have guessed that the guy who said, "doesn't care about democracy?"
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.